said he was qualified, so he whipped his ass, while he was in there. Now, the other stuff that happened, it went down the way it did, man.
I would like to wish you all the Brits go fuck yourself.
It is time to talk about NWA WrestleWar 1989, the Music City Showdown. And just like previous, the Chi-Town Rumble, to be honest with you, there's only one match worth watching on this show. And at this time, Flair and Steamboat are carrying this company. They are carrying it on their backs, putting on banger after banger after banger. This is like, I don't know, we could go over 5 stars for this one. It was just that good, but I'll get to that in a little bit. The format of this show was quite strange, having that world title match just put in the middle and then following it with 2 tag team matches really didn't make much sense. But anyway, let's kick it off with the Great Muta versus Doug Gilbert. Doug Gilbert's nothing to write home about. Don't know why you'd be writing home about Doug Gilbert, but trust me, you're not missing much if you've never seen a Doug Gilbert match. Absolutely shocking he is. This is one of Great Muta's first matches in America, and this is who you give him, Doug Gilbert. Jesus, 3 minutes of squash. It's cool to see the Great Muta in America, though, and he's going on to great things. Next up, Butch Reed versus Ranger Ross. Now, we've seen a lot of army gimmicks over the years, and there's only one that's really worked. Only one Special Forces gimmick that's actually connected, actually worked, actually drawn any sort of money, any sort of heat, any sort of anything, really. And that's Sergeant Slaughter, and you can't blame people for trying to attach to that and try and get something out of that and trying to create others, see if it'll work, but it never, ever did. And Ranger Ross was one of them. Who remembers Ranger Ross? Exactly. Butch Reed gets the win. They got more time than I'd expect they would. Nearly 7 minutes. Bull rope match between Dick Murdoch and Bob Orton. That's right, Randy Orton's dad. Bob Orton Jr., should I say, with Gary Hart in his corner. This was just 2 guys that have seen better days, really, coming towards the end. And you could see that in this match. With a 5-minute bull rope match, it was just pointless. Nobody really cared. But next up, we had the Dynamic Dudes. That's right, John Laryngitis himself, Johnny Ace, and Shane Douglas. A young Shane Douglas here, not Dean Douglas, Shane Douglas. That's right, starting out his career. And we all know how that would go. They're going up against the Samoan SWAT Team. A young Samoan team, led by a wise man. That's right, the wise man. This is the start of the bloodline, ladies and gentlemen. This is where it was all created. Fatu and Samu. You might know them as the Head Shrinkers, but the Samoan SWAT Team, what a better name that was. What a fantastic name that was. Why change that in WWF, man? The Head Shrinkers. Jesus Christ. But Paul E. dangerously in their corner. You think they're on to big things. You think they're on to good things here. This team look phenomenal. But they lose to Johnny Laryngitis. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? They should be acknowledging them. Because they are the ones. The leaders. The forefathers. Oh, I don't know. What is going on with the booking here, man? How can anyone think that the Dynamic Dude should be beating a Samoan SWAT Team? Should have been a squash, that. An absolute squash. What a joke. Tell you what, Lex Luger has impressed me in the last 2 shows I've watched. Never really was impressed much by Lex Luger. But he has impressed me. He's had 2 very good matches back-to-back now. One against Barry Windham and one here against Michael Hayes for the United States title. Michael Hayes gets the win. He's your new United States champion thanks to some help from some friends. He got by with a little help from his friends. It's right in the shape of Freebird. Bam Bam Terry Gordy turning up and helping Michael Hayes get the win. That was a good match though. Very good. Lasted 16 minutes and probably the only other match worth watching on this show, to be honest with you. Sting defeated Iron Sheik in 2 minutes. Sting was a TV champion. Very young, very green. You could see it here in his promo beforehand. But you could see he's going on to bigger and better things. With a big win here over a legend in the Iron Sheik. And then we come to the world title match. And this was phenomenal again. What can I say, really? You just have to go and watch how great Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat are. How great their matches were. They have some phenomenal ones. There's one in between the two I'm talking about. You'll go hear about the one I talked about on Chi-Town Rumble. There's one at Clash of Champions that was very, very good. And then they've got the one here. There's 3 series of matches are just phenomenal. Probably the best 3 matches of all time, like in a series. I don't know if anyone can get anywhere near what these two have done. Ever. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Great match. Great finish. Flair's the champion once again. And then it gets all ruined by Terry Funk. Terry Funk's a wild man. And he attacks Flair after the match. We all know what happens. Pile drives him on the table. You never really saw anything like that back in those days. So that was pretty cool. But we're kind of oblivious to that sort of thing now. We're numb to it. But back then it actually meant something, getting pile drived on the table. The table didn't break. It was an actual table as well. Not a gimmicked one. So, god damn, that must have hurt Flair. Anyway, now we're forgetting about the feud between Flair and Steamboat is over. We move on now to Flair and Funk. And that should be pretty interesting. Pretty interesting indeed, I suppose. I was enjoying the Steamboat Flair thing. Maybe they had legs to go even further, but they had a 3. Best of 3. Flair wins in the end. Anyway, we move, this is where it gets kind of strange, because that could have been the end of the show. It really could have been, but they had 2 more matches on, and they're both tag team matches. And it was quite strange, because the Varsity Club were involved in both of them. That's where it felt kind of weird. There were 4 members of the Varsity Club, apparently, back then, at this time. And they were fighting for 2 tag team titles. And they lost them both. First up, it was the Road Warriors. Well, no, they didn't lose. They did lose the match. They had the titles anyway. Let's get that right. The Varsity Club were the champions. They managed to beat the Road Warriors at Clash of Champions. Thanks to Teddy Long and his shenanigans. Teddy Long was a character back then. Trust me, worth watching. If you know, like, younger fans, you'll know Teddy Long as tag team match player from SmackDown. But this Teddy Long was on another level. Trust me, go and watch him. He's quite entertaining. But anyway, enough about Teddy Long. Let's talk about the Road Warriors against the Varsity Club. Mike Rotunda and Steve Williams were the tag team champions. Like I said before, Mike Rotunda, this is the best you'll see of Mike Rotunda. Forget IRS. This Mike Rotunda is fantastic. Steve Williams, Dr. Death Steve Williams, very, very talented as well. Underrated, underutilized. This was a good match. This was a fast match. This was a brutal match. Just a wild brawl, basically. That's what you're going to get from the Road Warriors. It ended in a DQ because Spivey and Sullivan got involved, the other 2 members of the Varsity Club, which led into another tag match with Eddie Gilbert, Rick Steiner going up against those 2 members of the Varsity Club, Dan Spivey and Kevin Sullivan, and that ended in a pinfall after 6 minutes, and that was the end of the show, which ended it kind of flat in my opinion. Should have ended with Funk beating the shit out of Flair. That's how it should have ended, but it didn't. But who am I? I'm just a wrestling fan. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Grey Talks Wrestling. I'll see you next time.